like, make sure you DM me once you're requesting, if you're not a regular guest. Tell us more about your experience, where you're located, and what information you have to share. The team could bring you up, but you have to make sure you DM me so the team can check your request before bringing you up. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. So, it's, in terms of the ABC, Jerusalem Post link ABC and said the news from ABC. And then ABC Pentagon reporter has posted and said the same thing, that it is Israel who is an Israeli missile site in Iran. A senior U.S. official tells our Martha Radas. Martha Radas is AB News Chief Global Affairs Assistant. So that just confirms from ABC that there has been an attack.
Oh my God.
By Israel.
Okay, I'm just having a look here. If there's anything else.
So I'm hearing from Submarine News right now. There's news on the activation of air defense systems, and there's a video also in the back of the guys.
Explosions. Hopefully that means the attack is relatively boring. Any updates on your end?
Oh my God.
I'm seeing something
Salam
on ABC
alaikum.
News, but I'm trying to go to them that they confirmed that there have been attacks in Iran, but I'm trying to confirm that right now.
Yeah, I saw those reports too. ABC saying that I guess per some senior U.S. official that Israeli missiles hit site in Iran. That's again.
dagaalka saddexaad waa bilaabmay alla ilaahay oo sahal.
Link for you guys.
And just for the record, the panel, if anyone's not adding value.
Salaam alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Just make sure we keep that in mind. Let me go to Hadi. Is there any updates on the Lebanese front?
No, there's not.
Yuhuudi waxay ku dhufatay Iran, Iraq iyo Syria.
They're not saying anything.
Saddex meelood oo Iran ka mid ah ayay ataagaraysay iyo Syria iyo Iraq.
Were also heard in Iran at the same time. So they're confirming the Syria attack. The Hebrew News are in terms of the Iran attack. The same explosions were heard at the same time, so they're not fully confirming them. That's from Israeli news.
It's just happening right now. Hadday socota
Just to
hadda.
say that South Syria, near Suwaida and Daraa, there are Iranian some kind of bases there, so they could be also targeted. Those are the ones who were targeted.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
There are
Allah
RGC
sahlo.
bases that are there, and the radar base that was rumored to have been attacked would probably be a pathway to move forward. But we're Hattie and I are checking with some people in Syria right now.
And just to be clear, we have no confirmation.
X was the first place.
Nuclear facilities in Iran have been targeted, which is obviously a major red line that we're watching very carefully right now.
Nuclear plants koodi bay ku dhufatay.
Because there's the Shakari air base in Isfahan, which is kind of important there, so it could be the one that they hit.
Yes, Isfahan is a pretty large city. The population of Isfahan alone is 2 million.
2 million bad degan Isfahan. Major nuclear facility na ku yaala.
City is so if Isfahan was targeted, it does not mean and there's nuclear facilities there. Does not immediately mean nuclear facilities were targeted. Just to be clear, there's literally
they're evil.
Of nuclear facilities.
Waa shaydan. Dadkii bay shicibkii bay.
There's about 4 or 5 known nuclear sites around Iran.
Oh, yeah, it's so
there's
sad.
Still about 3 or 4 research reactors that are in that site as well. So I guess, yeah, like I said, maybe it's too early to speculate anything, but this is damning. This is troublesome news to say the least, and I think, Mario, you said it best. I mean, this is a huge escalation. The fact that anything crossed Iranian airspace would be step 1 into the escalation as it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a huge escalation yet. I think I'm not too surprised that they hit Iranian territory, just how extensive the attacks on the Iranian territory are. Because it could be just a symbolic attack on Iranian territory. The risk that I have is obviously, again, it depends on the target, but the risk that I have is that Iran will have to respond to an
barkhad cawaale yuhuudi baa weerartay Iran iyo Iraq iyo Syria hadday socotaa weerarkii saddex wadan bay ku dhufteen mar kaliya ku wada dhufteen Iran way dhaartay wadankeeda haddii ciideeda la soo galo in ay hub aanay hore u isticmaali doonto waxa loo wixii wali way cusub yihiin hadday bilaabmeen hadda
Yeah, also.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Is an Israeli outlet. They said that Israel attacked in southern Syria. Explosions were also heard in Iran at the same time. So
southern Syria,
outlet there as well.
Iraq,
and from Mira's point there, if there was a strike
at an
Iranian facility, it definitely, again, most likely would be a tit-for-tat response, as Iran has said many times in separate interviews and on statements that if there is a response back to them, they will respond back as well. So this unfortunately, if it is true, and if we hear reports about this, if it's accurate, then the most likely would be a tit-for-tat response.
Iran dhaar bay ku bartay haddii ciideeda la soo galo inay hub aanay hore u isticmaalin ay u isticmaali doonto hadday taasi dhacdana dagaalka saddexaad ee dunida bilaabmaya Allah ha sahlo.
Iran outlet Fars, they are confirming that there was an explosion heard in the city of Isfahan. They're saying that some local sources report that an explosion was heard in the city of Jabaristan in the northwest of Isfahan. The cause of this noise is still unknown, so they're not confirming that it's Israel. And Fars reporters follow-up continues until the exact incident is determined. So they're saying there is an explosion, but we don't know the source at this time.
Weli Iran hadda waxay tiri qarax baa dhacay laakiin garan mayno qaraxu weli may cadaynin laakiin qarax baa ka dhacay magaalada Isfahan magaaladaana waxa ku yaala nuclear sites kooda.
They've had explosions.
But Payman, is there a nuclear facility in that region?
Cadowgii is an air base. No, the nuclear facility is in Natanz.
Okay, nuclear. Okay, haddana waxa la nuclear maaha is
the ability to conduct strikes against targets inside Iran without entering Iranian airspace from aircraft over Syrian and Iraqi airspace. That's the statement from Marco Rubio just 4 or so minutes ago.
So I think that will be.
So what? Mario, I just got an update. No problem. I've got an update.
You can watch it anywhere. qof baa soo qoray channel ka daawan karnaa meel laga daawado ma jirto X baan ka dhageysanaya X was the only place.
So Tabriz city, and that was the site that was used by Iran to target Israel earlier last week. So it seems like they're hitting the military bases.
Military bases bay ku dhufteen.
Air defense engagement in Tabriz, but I haven't heard a direct attack. I'm not sure if it's an engagement or if it's an attack.
And
I'll read it for you word for word. Tabriz city of Iran is also targeted by Israeli airstrikes. The site was used by Iran to target Israel earlier. So as it comes out and as we get more confirmation,
what is that source? If you don't mind.
Yeah, it's Daily Fuse News. It's the news site.
Thank you.
meelo badani ma soo qorayaan wali laakiin already waa ABC way sheegtaa la yiri qoraal ahaan it's happening.
It's got a military base there, but nothing nuclear appears to be there. I thought you might know, Payman. Is it just a military base? Is there any nuclear site there?
No, Tabriz and Isfahan are both air bases. They're both air bases.
Oh, okay. Isfahan marka hore waxa la moodayay nuclear area inay tahay but it's an air base. meelahay weerareen waa air base koodii. That's even more dangerous because meelaha laakiin way si waxoodii way la sii baxayaan kulliba way ogaayeen inay soo socdaan.
Part of the attack on Israel by the looks of it.
Yeah, so far it does seem, and I do expect it to be a pretty limited attack. I don't think Israel is looking for escalation. Hopefully it's going to be the case. And so far, from what we're seeing, is that it seems to be relatively limited, but it's too early to tell. Israeli missiles have hit a site in Iran. Okay, that's the same ABC news source, but constantly being repeated. Israeli missile. Okay, so we've seen.
meelo badan kuma jiraan, meelo badan kuma jiraan. This is X always has more information. Jason Hickley iyo baa ku jira, waa kaas. He's listening.
Is that what you mentioned, Khaleesi? Khaleesi, was that?
Tabriz. I was mentioning a city called Tabriz.
Okay, this one here is in so you're just hot mic again, breathing into the mic. Kahjaveristan in Isfahan province, which is close to the Iranian army base.
You can call it Kahdijan.
Kahdijan.
Isfahan province, which is close to the Iranian army's base.
Isfahan province kay kamid tahay.
Airport. So this is what you were referring to earlier, Payman, the military army's base, Iranian army's base.
Waa military base.
Yep. Okay. And just from what you've seen so far, Payman, just based on the targets, Chief, sorry, you got an update?
I put in the back end, so there is some footage trying to come out here of, this is from War Monitor, of air defense being activated in central Iran. So I put the
Air defense koodi bay haddeer activate gareeyaan. Waa la surprise gareeyay. How is that possible?
Also, Charles Lister shown that the airspace around Iran is cleared of civilian aircraft. They've all diverted, and that
shicibkii bay hadda ku yidhaahdeen ka baxa meelihii oo dhan. They're getting ready iyaguna inay to strike.
Has been hit inside Iran so far.
And also, so Bellam is also confirming that there are, for them, there was also air defense systems being activated in Isfahan as well. So it's several other outlets are.
Difaacoodii diyaaradaha ayay haddeer activate gareysay.
And actually, the Lister posted video footage of Isfahan air defense shooting at something.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
And the timing from Marco Rubio put out not too long ago. That Israel can strike Iranian targets without entering Iranian airspace. So he put that out that 4 or so minutes ago. The timing is again pretty, it's right about when all the explosions are happening. So that does again question.
Waxaa sameeye ka saaraysaa we can target. Waxay leeyihiin we can target. Waanu target garayn karnaa anagoon airspace kooda gelin, which is far more dangerous.
So War monitors just shared that they've shut down the airspaces in parts of Iran. They put out the no-10 warning.
So the west part of Iran has clear. It seems to have clearance. What I'm hearing is so far is still only the airbase in Isfahan and engagement in Tabriz. I'm still not sure if there's been an attack on Tabriz or not, or it's been just an engagement.
There's more reports. Yeah, more reports of explosions in Tabriz. Some of the ballistic missiles in Iranian response were launched from Tabriz. So it seems that as I can't remember who said on stage.
Iran missiles bay hadda dirtay immediately.
Bases.
Allahu yadaya ilayo rabbigayo.
According to accounts close to the Syrian air defense units, the Syrian air defense units were able to shoot down 2 rockets or 2 missiles that were heading towards Iraq. And this was as of 10 minutes ago.
Syria
And CNN
laba missile oo ku sii socda Iraq bay soo riday.
Have been diverted over Iranian airspace. Flight track website Flight Radar 24 shows multiple flights diverted over Iranian airspace early Friday, and it says from CNN counting at least 8 flights. So
diyaaradihii Iran ku socday oo dhan waa la kala diray meelahoodii ku kala dhoqdaa lagu yiri already.
So I want to go to Sam. We've seen these. We've just heard reports. We've heard reports that there's been attacks possibly on military bases. We know that, possibly on nuclear sites. Is this something that we were expecting, or what is the situation? Because we're hearing news and we're trying to make heads and tails of it, of the severity and the veracity of it. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything this crazy since we killed Qasem Soleimani. I was in Baghdad at that time when that occurred.
الله تشبي فاتح هذا ومرين الله تشبي الله تشبي الله تشبي الله كوفيا دير تشبي دياره هذا صوت دادي تود بيكدك ربي جاي ويرانا بيكدك يا الله.
Sorry, Sam, can you be specific? When you say you weren't expecting this, what weren't you expecting?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting one for it to happen so soon. But
ويكون نحسدن ويكون نحسدن.
Planning is maintaining an element of surprise. It seems like there was a window of opportunity that was taken because you're looking at several different things to occur for this to happen. First, we have a strike in Baghdad, right? In order for anybody to conduct a strike on Baghdad, you're talking about severe political risks in terms of a security agreement. So the strike in Baghdad has to do usually with something either of Israel or the U.S. Also, the reason why the IRGC keeps losing their generals is because in order for them to conduct these ground operations.
So there's just some updates. So Sam, there's an update here, and we are going to be focusing heavily.
There's an update.
I apologize, Sam, because everything's happening unconfirmed, and it's by Aleph. Iraqi sources report that airstrikes in the capital city of Baghdad have targeted a building where a high-level meeting was being held with the presence of several groups supported by Iran and members of the IRGC. Iran's IRGC. So
oh my God.
So he's looking at
building Baghdad building by Kurdistan.
Members of the IRGC.
Even
the meeting that were targeted in the attack in Baghdad. Just Sam, on that attack in Baghdad, how common is for
مدح إيرانيين يقاق عراقيين ميل أي كل ميان أو building هاي.
I don't necessarily think Israel targeted Baghdad. I think there's a potential that they disrupted an operation or a plan that was probably unfolding. I think the U.S. potentially took that strike, and then Israel saw a window of opportunity to conduct a strike on Iran. But that was it takes several phases to do that. The first phase was the radar and air defense sites in Iraq and Syria along the border, which would allow their fighter jets.
Evil that can that by Lanian, Kuanina Maravan Idlayan. They
better talking about carrying out an operation like this, the precision on it has to be insane. So, it looks like they took the shot in Baghdad. They gave the green light to go ahead and strike those radar and air defense systems and then conduct a strike on Iran almost simultaneously.
So just the market's response very quickly. Oil is up 4%. And obviously the market's closed, but Bitcoin is down 3%. It's got a quick market reactions. Today is obviously it's Friday, so I'm not sure what markets are.
دولك إسلام كابر يا محل دولك إسلام سعودي يو جوردن يو إمارات كي كل وحويان already وحيد هذا كوانا نوهيلنا أنا كوانا نسكندرنا يهودا نسكندرنا هاي بيد هذا.
The reality that we're seeing unfold as we speak versus expectations. That's a really important indicator. Iranian Fars news agency explosions were heard near Isfahan airport and an airbase at the Iranian army is Channel 14, Israeli Channel 14, referencing Fars news. So we're seeing more sources refer on the explosion.
It's very clear. It's happening.
The Isfahan airport at an airbase, as you mentioned. Let's give you a shout out there, Payman. That was what you mentioned as well. So we're just looking at the markets here.
Japan's market is down 3%.
Everything is oil is already shooting up.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. So what is it? It increased by 500 bips. So it's looking at gold.
Commodities going up.
Heavy jet activity reported over Iraq and Syria. Unclear if that's Israeli Air Force or U.S. Air Force. That's according to Faytooks. Not sure if there's any involvement by the U.S. Air Force either. It's probably going to be more intel support for Israel by the U.S. Military.
Ooh, to Muslims.
The U.S. was very explicit in saying they would not take part in any retaliatory strikes after what just happened, and they were trying to tell Israel to take the win as they had seen the results of largely ineffective Iranian.
Ha, Yehuda la jiraan Sabrina saddexda afartaasiba.
Sorry, Sam, shall I read a quick recap and give you the mic? So, explosions reported in Isfahan province in central Iran, among other regions. Not sure if Sully or anyone remembers.
Marka dhowr meelood baa Iran laga ataagiray hal meel kaliya maaha Isfahan
Iraq and southern Syria, including
dhowr meelood.
in Baghdad. U.S. official confirms to ABC News that Israel. Okay, moving too quickly. Israel carried out strikes inside Iran. Iranian state-linked media confirms explosion in Isfahan, significant rerouting of commercial planes amid closure of key parts of Iranian airspace. Oil price surges by nearly 4% amid concerns of further
4% bay saliidda durba kor u kacday.
Of how Iran will respond to the Sam, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with Brian. Although I think the attack or the strike in Baghdad, it was most likely they had some sort of intelligence of a pending attack. I think the pending attack is going to be most likely motivated a PMF attack, and it's going to most likely be motivated due to the meeting that just occurred with the Iraqi Prime Minister in the U.S. During this meeting, they talked about the energy and environment cooperations, the regional integration and political cooperations, economy and finance
Arab
cooperations.
never learned.
In the continuing bilateral
Yuudkii halkan u dhashay foreign minister ka haba saa ugu wareegaya meel kastana waxa u jooga CIA-oodii iyo oo iyaga laftigooda assets u ah.
Conversations with the U.S., it pisses off the PMFs within the region. It pisses off IRGC. It pisses off Iran. And that's when we start seeing these attacks occur, just like prior to the killing of Qasem Soleimani. It's like, it's like Groundhog Day all over again.
This is so sad.
Any updates on your end?
Generaaladoodii baa la marinayaa iyo madaxdoodii every day. Son of a guns.
Sorry guys, I was asking Ryan, not Brian. Sorry, Brian. I'm gonna go to you in a bit, Ryan. So gold skyrockets over 2,400.
Dahabkii samadaasuu isku shareeray.
And then we're getting more reports of the explosions at the airbase in Isfahan. Does anyone know about that airbase in Isfahan? How big is that airbase relative to others? How major is it? Payment, you probably have more information on that base.
It's a major airbase.
Way caawinayaan China iyo qof baa soo qoray China waxay tiri waa caawinayna. Hub bay siinayaan iyo laakiin waxba uma hiilinayaan. I don't think so.
As far as I understand, it did play a part in the attack by Iran against Israel. Okay.
I do not know. The attack against Israel was a missile attack. It was from all over the Iran, all of the west. But what I was worried at the beginning, it seems to be a little bit alleviated, was a complete clearance on the west part of the country, which most
Iran buu ka hadlayaa kan isugu.
launched from cities of the west. I see a few airlines now cleared. Still not over.
Way kaga naxsadeen. How are they not ready? Sidaan diyaar u ahayn. I don't understand.
I see a few flights over there now, so that's a little bit reassuring.
Way ogaayeen iyagu inaanay soo magacaabin this time.
The area of is it Natanz? So just to be clear, is Natanz the area where they
hadduu socdaa hadduu dhacay hadda.
Iran's nuclear program, and then the other facility is.
There are two main nuclear facilities in Iran, one in Natanz and one in Fordo.
Okay. So this is it. So and Henry's giving me the thumbs up as well. So that's if the information is accurate of what we are relaying, and it does seem to be because it's been coming from a few sources, but again, do continue to verify. But it does seem to suggest that Natanz is where the nuclear facility important facilities of Iran's nuclear program is held. And then Isfahan, the area in Isfahan that was done, that is the military base. So that is kind of the information that we've got up to.
Laba meelood bay ku dhufteen mid waa meeshii main nuclear-kooda ahayd Iran.
Okay, thank you.
iyo Isfahan oo military base ah.
So much for joining us, much appreciated.
Labadaas.
So can you give a recap for Mike on what we know so far? Anyone can fill any gaps as
Way
well.
ku soo celinayaan.
Mike's analysis of what we know so far. I think it'd be good to get a military analysis on this.
For sure. So what we know, Mike, at the moment is that there's been 3 explosions in Iran.
Saddex qarax baa Iran ka
2
dhacay.
of which have been in an area called near Isfahan and Natanz. Natanz allegedly contains important facilities of Iran's nuclear.
Laba Isfahan.
Isfahan is a military base. In addition to that, there has been simultaneous explosions in Iraq and
Okay,
in Syria.
so صدح قرح baa ka dhacay صدح meelood baa la qarxiyey midi waxa weeyaan Isfahan regionka Isfahan waxa ku yaala military base weyn militarygaas basekaas waxbaa lagu tuuray waa la ataagereeyey Natan meel la yidhaahdo oo isla regionkaas the next region ama ku xigana waa nuclear basekoodii meeshuu ahaa meeshaana waa la ataagereeyey I don't think nuclear basekoodii waxa la nuclearkoodii way hoos bay geliyeen haddeerto meelaha kale waa meelihii shicibka nuclearka shicibku isticmaaleen laydhka iyo demaark
Which is another point. Which is Mike. Another point I want to kind of focus on is that the Israeli jets did not enter Iranian airspace. I want to see how significant that is, Mike.
diyaaradahoodu may soo gelin airspace-ka Iran.
Do you have source for that? Because
So missile bay soo tuureen marka.
What was the
Missile.
exactly?
Henry said that the launch of the attack was from Jordan, I believe. That's what he said.
No, they used Jordanian and Iraqi airspace. It wasn't launched from Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jordanian iyo Iraqi airbase bay isticmaaleen. How is that possible? So Maraykan baa u ogolaaday Jordan baa u ogolaatay in lagaga duulo.
It was an American source or an American diplomat that says that Israel was not using. Oh no, I think it was the Marco Rubio saying that Israel can attack Iran without entering Iranian airbase, which so it's not exactly confirming that they haven't entered the not airbase, the Iranian airspace. But they say that they could attack Iran without entering the airspace. Kind of indicating
It doesn't matter.
The airspace.
Arabti baa la soo maray. Iraq uma ogolaateen dawladda u ogol miya? I don't understand.
Calls and DMs, things like that. So I'm just going to be up here for a little
Iraq iyo waxay isticmaaleen iyo Jordan airbase-kooday ka duuleen oo ka ataagereeyeen.
I think an objective military analysis standpoint. So the first thing I'd say about Isfahan is there are a number of possible targets there. And the Israelis, even in the past, have looked at going after weapons production facilities and other things there that have nothing to do with the nuclear program, right? So the idea that nuclear sites have been hit, we don't know that yet, right? I think what you're looking at is potentially a slightly more limited strike going after targets around these key facilities that can be reached from a standoff distance, right? Using airspace that does not require you to go into Iran to conduct a long-range strike from the air. I know there are some conflicting reports on missile strikes and things like that. I would say that we're almost certainly talking about conventional air capabilities here, precision-guided munitions from F-35s or F-15s or other things like that, going after some of these sites. And I think that the idea that they would have reached out for the nuclear sites, to me, is a little less likely given President Biden's comments from a couple of days ago that the U.S. is not going to go ahead and sort of join in on sort of a more full-scale, kind of robust, concept of operations here. So I think these could be more limited, looking to send a message to Iran that, hey, we can, reach out and get you around these.
So this is very interesting.
Nuclear facilities if we want to, but I think the target selection is the big thing that I would focus on, and we're still trying to get details on that. But so far, I've not seen any credible confirmation that any nuclear facilities themselves.
Okay. So waxa la leeyahay maadaama aanay meeshooda isticmaalin their airspace oo ay airspace kale ka target gareeyeen Iran nacam waxay la mid tahay annagoon meeshayada ka iman baanu meeshaada kuugu iman karnaa waan ku soo attack gareyn karnaa annagoon airspace-kayga ka bixin which means fursad ma helaysid diyaaradaha iyaga aad ku soo rido ay kugu duulaan waa dhoolatus ma fahmaysaa khasab maaha diyaaradaha iyagu inay ku soo xareeyaan oo ku airspace-kiina soo galaan oo iyaguna waxay ku Iranna waxay ku tashatay waxay u sii diyaar garowday inay diyaaradahooda soo rido dagaalka haddii ay hawadooda soo galaan taasay ku mashquulsanayd marka waa surprise attack baa iyagana lagu sameeyey waa dhoolatus sidii Iraq ay droneska u soo dirtay droneski ay ku mashquuleen missileskiina ay gudihii target gareeyeen oo gudihii galeen oo ay ka mashquuliyeen so annaguna we can do this hadda idinkuna saa samaysaa annaguna waa samayn karnaa bay la mid tahay
International Airport, which contains multiple squadrons of F-14 Tomcat fighter aircrafts. So it's a significant target, and Mike, please correct me if you disagree, but definitely not a nuclear facility. And lastly, Al Arabiya correspondent says military aircraft flying in the airspace of western and southern Iraq as we speak right now. So before we go to Mike, Sully had another update as well.
Yeah, we've got an update by, this is just a statement.
New update.
It may or may not be coincidental, but it says, IRGC Commander Ahmed Haqtalab is stating, quote, if the Zionist regime wants to take action against our nuclear centers and facilities, we will surely and categorically reciprocate with advanced missiles against their own nuclear sites. So they're basically stating that if there is any attacks on their nuclear centers or even facilities, then they will reciprocate.
Okay. Iran baa tiri haddii Zionisku ay taabtaan muxuu ahaa nuclear facilities kayaga oo ay dhaawac u geystaan annaguna isla markiiba kuwoodaanu ataagaraynayna.
They've said this throughout. I can get some links, but that's pretty accurate. They've been talking about if they retaliate against nuclear sites, we'll attack theirs. I've heard those statements frequently throughout the past couple of days. I do have some updates.
Update.
We have Iran. This is from War Monitor. Iran suspends flights to Tehran, Isfahan, and Shiraz. Also, we have
all flights are suspended.
It says that military aircraft flying in the airspace of western and southern Iraq. And there's also some video I've sent the back channel of sirens going off in that region too.
Meel walba ambulance baa qaylinaya, sirens are going on.
Audio coming through of these raids.
We daasaa meeshii socota laakiin hawadii way baneeyeen diyaaradihii usoo socday oo dhan mid walba meesheedii dhulkuinii ku noqdaa la yidhi.
Security source told Al Arabiya there is no bombing targeting Iraqi territory, which goes against previous reports I received that there was a target and there was an explosion in Baghdad, and allegedly it was targeting a high-level meeting among IRGC members, Iran's IRGC members. So we're seeing conflicting
Mario,
reports
I think,
on that front.
yeah, I think the conflicting report, I think the Baghdad strike was accurate. I think what that report is referring to, it was a different city. There was conflicting reports earlier.
You talking about Babel? Babylon?
Yeah, about targeting air defense and radar sites in that area.
Those sites were in El Suwaida, and they were in Daraa as well. But
wixii ka dhacay Iraq lama hubo.
It was the two sites that they had mentioned was Babylon and Baghdad.
Babylon and Baghdad. Okay.
There's one more.
There's a report
Then what happened?
So there's a report by Ocean Defender, which Elon's replied to, and it says Iranian state media is reporting that tonight's airstrike by the Israeli Air Force may have targeted the 8th Tactical Air Base of the Iranian Air Force within Isfahan International Airport, which contains multiple squadrons of F-14 Tomcat fighter aircrafts. And Elon responded and he said, our tax dollars somehow also blowing up our tax dollars, because obviously F-14s are only held by Iran and the United States, and they are originated in the United States.
Oh wow, okay. And just one more thing here.
Okay.
Just really quick on that.
So Iraniintu way sheegeen in dhowr meelood la soo ataagreeyay.
Decades ago. I mean, 40 some years ago, right?
Than we are.
Sort of before, the Iran-Iraq war and all this other stuff. So I would just kind of put that in context. It's not like the U.S. was,
kii doqonka ahaa Elon Musk waa doqon haddadaa wax dhibaa la odhanaya kulaha tax lacagtayadii taxka ayay Iran weli isticmaalaysaa diyaaradihii because F-16 ka isticmaaleen waa kuwa la siiyey long time ago ay iibsadeen oo whatever waxba lama siiyo Iraq baa ay kan yahay.
There's a map by ABC. We'll be posting it right now. Is in the south of Iran, Bandar Abbas, southwest of Iran, Karj Island and Bushehr, and northern Iran in Natanz, Fordo, Arak, and Tehran. So these are the locations based on a map provided by ABC.
Saddex meelood bay ataagareeyeen.
Seen that map? Is that true?
Natan, Tehran, meel ku taala iyo Isfahan.
Who shares one of the nuclear sites also?
Yeah, but is that a target? So that map, I'm just reading those locations. These are okay. Let me add you in that. This is another group here. Let me add that in there, so because you're not.
Hey,
This
Mike,
is really
I'm now
sad.
seeing tankers airborne over Baghdad.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the big concern here. Is where, when you continue to climb the escalation ladder here, things can spiral very quickly. And we've discussed this, Mario, going all the way back, over the last 6 months, sort of as we've had these ebbs and flows. And I think right now we're at a very critical moment here. It'll be interesting to see to what extent the U.S. gets involved, even defensively, right? Not even for necessarily Israel, but for the defense of the about 40,000 U.S. troops that are still in the Middle East, that are in the Persian Gulf, that are in the Levant. And then, of course, any kind of Iranian response. I mean, right, earlier this week, after what we saw on Saturday, you saw Raisi, you saw a number of other Iranian officials sort of promise, a very harsh response to direct attacks on Iran, and we'll see if they follow through with that. But again, this is kind of that critical moment.
This is very scary. Allah sahlo. Wax waliba samadaas ay isku shareerayaan.
On the board, they're going to get made
Saliid
unless you sort of have, mutual tactical pause and sort of de-escalation, at least for the short term, right? Which is kind of what we saw, honestly, after Saturday, right? You saw a couple of days where things slowed down just a little bit. You had consultation.
Allah sahlo. Anyway,
a number of countries. You had the U.S. and Israel consult on sort of what a response might be. So again, I think that's where we need to be looking right now. I think the option, sort of the top option was always going to be the most aggressive option you could come up with, right, would be to robustly hit all of the nuclear sites. To me, from what we know right now, it doesn't look like we saw that. So, even 1 or 2 steps down would be a pretty robust attack on sensitive locations within Iran, right, that are important for...
نعم waxa la filanayay inay all of their nuclear sites kooda dhan ay mar kaliya ku wada dhufato laakiin uma eeka hadda malaa mid kaliya ku dhufato.
Same thing with Karg Island, right? So significant to Iran in other ways than just the nuclear program. So, if that's what they went for, that sends kind of a strong message, but it's not the maximal option. And then, of course, the lower end options, the far lower end options, like just doing some cyber attacks or just...
iyaga qudhooda dadna waa laga dilaa la yidhi askarna waa laga dilay maalintii dhaweyd cidna umay furin ereyadoodii meelihii ay missileska ku dhaceen cid la tusay ma jirto meeluhuna lama filanayn in meelaha la ataagarayn doono droneskuun baa lala dagaalamayay soo dad baa ku dhintaa laleeyahay way qaranayaan.
While Israel conducts a lot of strikes in Syria, and they do that pretty regularly and have over the last decade, it is very rare for the Israelis to reach into Baghdad. In fact, the last time that comes to mind for me on that would be when they went after the Osirak nuclear reactor all the way back, again, 30, 40 years ago here. And to me, that was sort of the last time you've seen the Israelis go for that level of option. So this is a significant response. There's no doubt about that.
There is.
So we're getting
I just hope in an...
I think the Hezbollah Iranian Telegram channel is reporting that the Hebrew media is reporting the attack was carried out from Syria and Iraq.
Syria and Iraq.
Iranian airspace. So, Mike, that's a little bit troubling, right?
Syria and Iraq baa laga weeraray Iran.
I can understand, but Iraq to
gudahoodana laga qarxiyay. Very strange.
Sovereignty over their airspace, and that's what
Iraq doesn't have control over their airspace. Maraykan baa haya.
Conduct strikes in Iraq that really the Iraqis have not really been able to have a say in, and this is kind of the same thing where the Iraqi Air Force is just not able to prevent the Israelis, especially with stealth capabilities on the F-35 and things like that, to prevent them from doing that. I think what the Israelis were probably assessing is that if we conduct the strikes from outside of Iranian airspace, or we don't try to contest Iranian airspace directly, that would limit the likelihood...
sida loogu kibrayay muslimiinta gudihiinaanaba ku jirnaayo iskala idinkula dagaalamaynaa annagoon meeshayadaba dagaalkuba meeshayada soo gaari maayo gudihiinaanu iskaga kin.
So I think that's what they were trying to do. I'm sure the Iraqis are not going to be happy with this. They're never happy when the Americans conduct operations in their airspace without informing them, things like that. So, yeah, I think the Iraqi response will be big here, especially if Baghdad was hit. And you have to remember, too, Khaleesi, Shia al-Sadani, right, the Iraqi PM, he was in Washington just a couple of days ago. So, again, that relationship could,
So warka ugu dambeeya wuxuu yahay Yehudi way attackerayaan Iran. Surprise attack. The surprise maahayn waa la iska sugayay. 3 meelood bay ku dhufteen. Waxay ku dhufteen Isfahan region oo military base weyn ah. Ay military base kii bay meel qarxiyeen waa meelaha diyaaradahooduna fadhiistaan fighter jets koodu. and Nadalia meel ay ku sheegayeen oo iyaduna the next region Isfahan, and or nuclear site lakin they have 7 nuclear sites I think. Haddeerna waxa lahaa they went underground ba oo xataa nuclear xataa ma gaari karo haddii lagu tuuro, and because dhowr jeer bay waxay ku sameeyeen by physically attack gareeyeen, and cyber attacksna way ku sameeyeen, so way qariyeen, they went underground baa la yidhi, hadda underground bay galeen, laakiin de sites kan kale waxa weeyaan waa kuwa shicibkay u shaqeeyaan, waa electricity iyo de maaragtay, and iyo anyway Iraqna waa la hidgareeyaa la yidhi meel ay ku miidgareynayeen. I don't understand waxay weli Iraq iyo isugu miidgareynayaan oo ugu shirayaan.
That the Israeli attack on Isfahan was carried out from Iraq without entry.
Isfahan attackii Isfahan ku dhacay Iraq baa laga riday, laga weeraray. Iraq iyo Syria gudahoodana laga weeraray.
You guys should mention that Iraqi leaders were just with Biden this week, making super nice, making nice.
And Tehran meel baa iyadna laga qarxiyay, laakiin weli clear ma aha weli, and habaryar habo who I'm listening to this channel la yiraahdo, and
my council team could see your DM and bring you up. Obviously, if you're a military expert, please do DM me as well, and we'll be.
Hold on. Waxa la yiraahdaa
Just real quick, I just think it's also worth noting yesterday there was also a dozen EMs and scrambling.
Waxa la yiraahdaa Mario Mario Naufal Nawfal.
Seems like they're probably going to be sending some stuff from that direction in anticipation of a response. I also think it's
warheed aduna maxaad sheegtaa iyaga saaxiiba yaa saaxiiba horta Soomaaliduna conspiracy theory bilaa macnaa bay iskula wareegaan, iyaga saaxiibe Iran iyo Yahuudda dagaalkoodu waa been, waxaasay ku hadlaan Soomaalidu waa cynical piece of shit. War iska aamuheedhe niyo maxay saaxiib ku yihiin meesha dhiig baa daadanayo kow iyo kaxbaa la yahay. Iran is not fake, de Arabahaasa fake oo la haystay laakiin Iran kuwan iyo saaxiibtinimo iyo heshiis kama dhaxeeyo. Soomaalida horta waa waxay anaga nagu yiraahdaan xijaabka iska dhig been baad u sidataay, maxaa been lagaaga sheegaya oo lagaa sasabanaya waa waxa garan waayo wuxuun bay sheegaan, waa paranoia iska sifrinayay qabaan Soomaalida yaa badana. Anyway, waa idinka tagaya khayr iyo baraadaan idin rajeynaya, ducada soo badiya, guul Israel. Waryahay maxaa tidhi haku wasta de Israel orod bastard yo, get the hell out of here. Allah sinjigaaga ku yaala tuugyo tuugu dhalay magacaygana daa cabsiyaa soo qaadane alla cadaabtii kugu fogeeyay oo aabbaha kala was. Anyway, khayr iyo baraadaan idin rajeynaya, nabade update cusub baa yimi.
Network News, I believe it is saying, and I quote, "This is now urgent. Several explosions were heard in Isfahan in the Shahin Shah area near the Natanz nuclear reactor in central Iran."
Okay,
Oh my
can you
God.
see if you could post that in our group as well, just for the team to post it out. But can you read it again?
Intii un baa lagu
Read it
celcelinaya.
one more time, please.
Yeah, sure. It says this is now urgent. Several explosions were heard in Isfahan in the Shahin Shah area near the Natanz nuclear reactor in central Iran. I've got Russia
Why ain't
giving
you?
me, all the latest updates here. So
Okay,
I'll
why
send
ain't
them
you?
on to Ryan.
Nuclear reactor
the Lebanese front seems
Yeah,
pretty
military
quiet,
base
like right
Isfahan.
now Hezbollah's not jumping in and shooting missiles. Like it seems like they're trying to keep that front at least somewhat quiet.
Mario, there's a journalist. He's Iranian. He's actually he posts legit stuff. He's based in Iran. He said now that he's got reports and confirmation. Actually, he said
Irani baa
that
soo galaya
several
suga.
small birds, basically drones, have been successfully shot down by the air defenses. There is no documentation of missiles above Isfahan, so he's saying it was drones that were above
Okay,
Isfahan.
drone baa lagu soo weeraray Isfahan, suicide drone.
Drones were above Isfahan.
Yeah, he's claiming that there were drones shot down by the air defenses above Isfahan, and there are no confirmation of any missiles that they were hit there.
It was drones. Drones kiina waa la soo ridu
on the
leeyahay.
escalation ladder, we've definitely entered another escalation ladder here. And I could bet your socks that you will get a response, because people are, it seems like we're forgetting who started what and where. right? It started with the consulate attack in Syria. Iran made their stance clear. Now you have a direct attack on Iranian sovereign soil, and you can assure yourself that there has to be a response. Now, whether the whole axis of resistance is going to get involved, why they're quiet, that's probably a good reason. But we've now entered, Mario, a new area of escalation.
What's that new area? Because we kind of expected, following the Iranian attack on Israeli soil, that Israel will likely, wasn't certain, but will likely attack Iranian soil. We just don't know to what extent. So how does this deviate from expectations?
So I think obviously the targets.
No, just before you go on, just some breaking news. Urgent news coming out of Iranian media. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, declares a state of maximum alert in all its bases and camps across Iran.
Iran waxay sheegtay miidiyahoodii haddeer wuxuu sheegay in ay digtoonaan wada qaataan waddanka oo dhan airbaseskooda oo dhan state of maximum alert difaac diyaarnay u noqdaan
confirming that this is credible news because we read it from another source earlier. Also, not surprising, Iran's Isfahan province activates air defense system according to Reuters. Again, not too surprising. An Iranian source told Reuters activating the air defense system. Okay, again, multiple sources are saying that the air defense system at Isfahan is being activated. Iranian state television reports strong explosions near Isfahan. One monitor said activation of the air defense, or everyone's reporting the air defense activation.
shahwareerun baa hadda socda weli
You have neighboring countries, Mario. You have neighboring. Just one point, Mike, if you don't mind.
Go ahead quickly, and then we'll go to Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just neighboring countries coordinating with the U.S. With regard to the airspace. There seems to be a request to understand what type of airspace closure.
Neighboring countries.
That's unconfirmed discussions happening right now with the U.S.
Neighboring countries.
Just two notes on kind of some of the news.
ka qayb qaadanaya nacamda u ogolaanaya Iran in laga weeraro space-kooda son of a bitch.
Initial reports of it was a missile strike or it was a drone strike. This
qashinkii carabta ahaa.
All these people really know that are reporting from the ground is an impact, right? They're the idea that they have a perfect degree of certainty on what kinds of munitions are being used is very unlikely right now. So, drones sound a little off to me there. I would much more expect that to be a precision-guided munition launched from, an Israeli aircraft, right? And again, on the impact side of that, it may look a lot like a one-way attack drone or something like that, right? So, that's kind of.
weli lama hubo inay missile tahay inay drone tahay yaa kala garanaya. So what? Who cares about
something
that?
was hit around Natanz or around whatever. I mean, I just have to be clear with people, having sort of been on the targeting end of these things. There are hundreds of military targets around these facilities that are not actually the facilities. So again, just because initial reports are saying, something was hit there or near there. I mean, right? You have point defense, short-range air defense systems that are around many of these facilities, things like that, right? So. It's certainly plausible that those would have been the targets. And again, it's hard to say, I would just urge caution for people on, reading that and then taking away from it, kind of a maximal level, interpretation.
So I have a couple of things here. So from Israeli Channel 13, there's a reporter on the air was talking about this and saying there was an alertness in Israel for an Iranian response. That's from Israeli Channel 13.
Yuhuudi iyaguna waxay filanayaan alert noqda yidhaahdeen nacam difaac gala iyaguna in lasoo weeraray filanayaan bal gardarrada
again, this is my report here. Per the informant, the Iranian Supreme National Security Council is reportedly holding an emergency meeting after the strikes. So
shir degdega bay galeen Iraaniyiintii madaxdii Iraaniyiinta sidii ay uga jawaabi lahaayeen weerarkan.
Let me go to Yehuda. Yehuda, just want to get your thoughts so far on the on the response, just from a military perspective, whether that will be an escalatory response, that will be a proportional response, or that will be a de-escalatory response. I'm definitely leaning away from this is de-escalation, but at the same time, I don't think it's escalation either. I think it's trying to be within the range of being a proportionate response and without showing any weakness. Your thoughts, Yehuda?
I think the word to use would be a considered response as opposed to proportion.
I mean,
Would be launched a bunch of.
iyaguna waa inay jawaabaan marka qof walba wuxuu leeyahay aniga feerka ugu dambeeya anaa yeelanaya laygaga dambayn maayo marka hadda khalaas.
It's not, yeah. So, I mean, a proportional response would be to have half Israeli missiles blow up and not hit any targets. I think a considered response. So, the reality is that Israel had an option to not do anything, consider it a win, as their allies wanted them to do, or to reassert deterrence capabilities. Now, if Israel, for those asking, I mean, if there are drones or if there are missiles, I'm confident it's not aircraft. I think your mic, someone's mic's on, sorry. If you could, thanks so much, sorry. If it's not aircraft, the cover or the air passage is not guaranteed through the countries that are in between the two. So if this was a drone, as the previous speaker said, you might be looking at Israelis just saying, we can reach out and touch you. Is it proportional, or as you said, proportional or considered? I would say it is. If these early reports are true, and it's a big caveat there, then you're looking at Israel saying, we're going to be able to do what we want. You don't scare us. That could be posturing. But remember, the full Monty that Israel could do, people aren't aware that Israel has Dolphin submarines in the Gulf with all sorts of munitions available to them, including ballistic missiles, including who knows what. If they really wanted to take advantage and make hay of an Iranian attack on Israel, they could. So I personally think that would escalate things to an unbearable level.
Okay, that can be military, former militaries, your experts, weapons experts.
It seems symbolic. And I don't think
marka wuxuu leeyahay ninkani waxay u eg tahay haddaanay diyaarada hadhaynin oo aanay diyaarada ku gelin way ku geli karayeen submarines bay haystaan baddana way ka geli karayeen all out war hadday ahaan lahayd dagaal ay u diyaar garoobeen cir iyo dhulba way ka weerari lahaayeen laakiin hadday tahay drones ama missiles ay meel kale kasoo tuureen waxay u eg tahay waanu iska kaa celin karnaa annaguna waanu sidaad adiguba yeeshay annaguba waa ku taaban karnaa annagoon xataa sooyalkayaga iyo waddankayaga kasoo duulin ayaanu agtaada kaasoo weerari karnaa marka nacam hanjabaad laakiin hadday dad laayeen kuwani always dad bay laayeen.
Did that just come in? Mo, I think you're giving you a thumbs up. Did that just come in now?
Yep, that's the latest from Roy AP. Sorry.
Okay.
What is the latest?
So the team sent me through a map. By the way, I was going through one of the maps that was posted by ABC, where I read Fordo, Natanz, Arak, Tehran, and a few other Karg Island, Bandar Abbas. But those regions were not targeted. So I'm not sure why ABC News put out that map. But there's another map here that the team put out, and that's nuclear sites in Iran. To that matter right now, Isfahan, obviously we were talking about it earlier, and Tehran, which obviously is a massive city. So we know that there's an explosion there's possibly an explosion in or near Tehran based on the report we just heard from Iranian TV. That doesn't immediately mean a nuclear facility was targeted. Yeah, Hadi?
Yeah, I got news. So basically, Al-Mayadeen reporter right now in Tehran, he said that all the explosions that happened, they happened in the sky and nothing was on land. So it could be probably actually the drones that were infiltrated and they were shot down by their defenses. And you have two scenarios here because I don't think the drones came from.
Okay, kan waa Irani wuxuu yiri newskayagii waxa lagu soo qorayaa qaraxyadii dhacay oo dhan hawaday ku qarxeen drones bay ahaayeen.
Okay, so hold on. Reserved forces so we got a report here. Let me see the source of that.
That source also, just Mario, was from the general manager of airports in Iran. So with regard to Isfahan, Shiraz, and Tehran, airspace has been closed.
And just jumping up, what Mike said was that we have to be really careful about certain conclusions because some of these things have both nuclear and military facilities, and we're not sure what's been targeted yet. So there's obviously, it'll be interesting to see if any nuclear sites were targeted or if it was just the Air Force and bases that were used or relevant to the attacks against Israel from a few days ago. So
anyway
they'll
qaraxyo
see how
dhace
that works.
wax dhintay iyo wax maaragtay iyo damage-ku intuu yahayba hadda ma ogaan karno hadhow baynu ogaan doonaa insha allah
So that's in terms of
laakiin waa bilaabantay
escalation, that's
ilaahay
helpful.
baynu
So yeah, we
talada u
definitely
dhiibnay
see
ilaahay baynu u baryaynaa
what's gonna
salaada
happen. It's
iyo
just
maaragtay
because
mar walba
there
dee
is
aynu
nuclear
ducayno
site,
muslimiinta
someone
in
has
ilaahay
made
ka
something
qabto
else was
cadowgan
targeted.
isuruursaday ee
Okay,
isu
so
tegay
hold on
waxay
two
isugu
seconds.
tegtegayeen ayaamahan oo
News
dhan u
right here.
faqayeen
First
faqayeeno
one is Iranian media is reporting anti-aircraft guns shoot down flying objects in several Iranian regions.
markaan is idhaahdo
Which goes to
tagba
Hadi, your point that a lot of these explosions don't mean the ground, those attacks that hit the ground.
okay news
that were hit.
Iran
Just
newskeedu
hit
wuxuu
from
sheegay
system
in
shooting
ay
down,
fighter jetskoodu soo
flying
rideen
objects, drones, and back to the
flying
NBC,
objects drones bay u badan yihiin
Okay, I'll have to confirm that. Okay,
That could be Iran lying just to tell its own people, oh look, we shot some stuff down. Who knows? I doubt.
well
Iran
kana wuxuu leeyahay waa laga yaabaa Iran oo
to
been
Iran
sheegaysa
has
dee yuhuudba been bay
that's
sheegtay of
the
course
entire
ciida
research
meel walba waa sidaa been bay sheegaan waxbana lagama dilin sida la moodaya maaha annagun baa wax laynay it's normal
Let me go to Jason. Jason, any updates on your end? I see Jackson as well as hand up. Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, thank you so much. No, I just think that honestly, looking at the situation, Israel, if it wished to do more, could do much, much more. And let's not kid ourselves. It's a very powerful country. It's choosing not to do more. If this is Israeli, in fact, this is Israeli, Israel could do far, far more. So my general suspicion would be that looking at what's going forward, this is something that Israel is either trying to show that they have the ability to do more, as Yehuda said, they're giving them a touch on the back to let them know that they're there, or this is in fact something even more nefarious.
You don't think
this is what is going to
okay kana wuxuu leeyahay hadday Israa'iil tahay dagaal u diyaar garoodo waxaan wax ka badan bay samayn lahayd
the cycle of escalation. So if Israel immediately escalates right now, it just looks too
marka isagu wuxuu leeyahay waa ka shakisanahay inay Iran tahayba ama inay uun iska tahay hanjabaad yar laakiin wax weyn maaha hadda waxaan la sheegaya
simply non-strategic, let's be fair, is that Israel successfully, with the United States and Britain, shot down 99% of the rockets that were headed towards their country.
84% has gone down now.
So I think
just correction that it was reported today that now that figure's gone down to 84%.
Almost zero in the casualty, so let the man talk.
No, just I'm letting him talk.
Okay, so
right.
Let me please finish my sentence. Be a little respectful, please.
Okay, just
let's have some
no, I'm just gonna go back.
Thank you. Let's have some
Whoa. Listen, Zayo, calm down. I'm just literally just correcting. I'm just saying.
wuu korregareeyay maxaad ii korregaranaysaa buu leeyahay because waa meelahay la kala jiraan ma
What is going on? What are these guys doing?
Guys, Jason, can you please stop as well?
Yehuda very
Jason,
sensitive.
just move on to the news, guys, and let's just please, especially in a time like this where there's breaking news, let's just avoid Zayos and avoid doing anything personal. I think Sully was just making correction to one number. I don't think it's that big of a deal what that number is, whether it's 80 or 90%, Jason. I think the correction is fair. Sully, I'm just going to go back to the news. An American plane is refueling an unidentified fighter plane in the Samawi Desert in southern Iraq. And we've got here another report here. Iranian outlet fires. 3 explosions were heard. And again, when we say an explosion, Hadi, you've made that correction. By the way, if there's any updates, Hadi, on the Lebanese side, that would be good to just jump in and let us know. But so far, Hezbollah has been quiet during this back and forth between Iran and Israel. 3 explosions were heard near the army base in the northwest of Isfahan, which we know. The defense is activated. I think they're talking about the air defense is activated in response to an object that is likely to be a small drone. It is said that the army radar was one of the possible targets, and the window of several office buildings were broken in this area. Fars reporters pictures from the front of the army base in Isfahan shows that the situation is normal. That's from War Monitor, and there's a
okay War Monitor channelka la yiraahdo wuxuu sheegay Isfahan dhowr meelood qarax inuu ka dhacay laakiin bildinadii daaqadihii uun ay burbureen uma eeko wax weyn inuu dhacay dhowr waxna hawada lagu qarxiyay oo u eeg drones.
The attack is likely ongoing. Mike, do you think the
attack inuu weli socdo weerarkii bay u eg tahay?
Microphone, Mike. Do you think the attack is still ongoing?
Uu weydiiyo qofku weydiiyo.
Yeah, we'll see. I think like Yehuda mentioned, this is a calibrated response. I don't think we'll see, sort of a multi-hour thing here, but it is, like I said on Saturday, right? A lot of people were trying to call that early as well. And I was trying to remind people, look, you got to wait here.
Just some breaking news. Just some breaking news is reported by War Monitor. Apologies, he's relaying it from CBS News. He says 2 U.S. officials tell CBS News an Israeli missile hit Iran, and there was also a report I posted about it, which was that there was. Right, the Iran official claims Iran shot down a number of small drones over Isfahan. So, Mike, a question to you.
Okay. So American military generals waxay sheegeen in Iran lagu dhuftay missile. So Israel missile bay ku tuurtay. Iran waxay sheegtay Isfahan inay dhowr drones ka soo rideen hawada. Intercepting ku sameeyeen.
Limited in nature. Which is in line with some of the statements made earlier. Go ahead, Mike.
habar dagaalkii baa bilaabmay Israel baa weerar ku qaaday Iran.
We know where your most sensitive sites are, and we can hit, what I would assess to be air defense targets or other things around those sensitive facilities to try to send that message. And I think if that is the case, right, and we're not seeing any more than that, I'm hoping that there is a window here, an off ramp, if you will, towards de-escalation, where we can sort of try to put pause on this. But again, it's too early to tell that right now. And like we've talked about earlier in the space, Iran all week has said, our second attack in response to any sort of direct Israeli attack, we're not going to wait. We're not going to, ask questions. We're not going to, whatever. So we'll see in the coming hours if that ends up being accurate. The other thing I wanted to note really quick is just on the initial reports, right? If it, my only point there is, if it says drone, it could be a missile. If it says missile, it could be a drone, right? You're talking about.
We don't know yet. Drone bay noqon kartaa, missile bay noqon kartaa. Wuxuu leeyahay dadkani waa military experts. Haddii Iran waxay ballan ku qaaday soilkeeda haddii la soo weeraro xataa in yarna in ay isla markiiba weerarka mid ka awood badan 10 times kii hore ay celin doonto. Marka hadday iyaduna weerarto isla markiiba weerar qaado then kuwaasina waa soo celinayaan sheekadu marka waa sii badanaysaa kuwani waxay leeyihiin nuclear option baan bahaysanaaba yuhuud ya anagu haddaanu baqno we have the option magac bay ugu yeedhayeen something option bay ugu yeedheen which means nacam haddaan aanu lafahayaga u baqno maadaama aanu territory khatar ah ku nool lahay we have the option aanu nuclear ku isticmaalo and we will do it.
As much on that, of course, you see a number of U.S. tankers, up in the air as well. I don't think it's likely that those U.S. tankers would have played a role in refueling any Israeli jets. Again, we'll see if that's the case. That would seem to me to be counter to what President Biden said about, joining in any kind of response. So I think that's unlikely. But it will be interesting to see to what extent the Israelis used their very small tanker fleet, if at all, tonight. I think that's kind of an interesting point on the military side and sort of on, the Israeli capabilities side. So that
war Israeli capable ma haysatee waa niman Kibreu isku haleynaya nin kale inuu u hiiliyo kaligood waa dad bacay oo balanbalay oo dulli ah oo duloobay alla idin dulle inay dulli yihiin waxaad ku garanaysaa isku haleynun bay nin kale ka qabaan markaasay maalin walba dad gardaraysanayaan.
We're talking about maybe drones or missiles, but here's the other thing. Remember, Israel has almost the unlimited ability to strike inside of Iran. There are dissidents, there are people that don't like the regime, there have been nuclear scientists that have been killed willy-nilly. There could be explosions that people think are in the air. We say they
Israel nacam waxay haysataa bulay option ay iyaga gudahooda isku dirto isu adeegsato.
You could see all sorts of attacks on
muslimiinta masiibadaas ku dhacday iyagii baa la isu adeegsadaa gudahooda. Maxaa Sacuudiga iyo hostage ka dhigay kuwan oo dhan waxa leeyahay dadkaagii baanu ka haynaa oo kugu soo deynayna arjuuqday annaga ka hayna dadkaaga hawada lagu cunayaa sidii loo galay Saddam iyo already ayaa lagu galayaa iyo muxuu ahaa Gaddafi arjuuqday iyo Xusni Mubarak arjuuqday.
Thanks, Mario Suleiman. So sources confirmed that no explosions occurred on the ground in the city of Isfahan, and the sounds were caused by the Iranian defenses.
Oh, good. Okay, Isfahan waa military-gooda military base-ka wixii hawada marayay baa la soo daadiyay explosion dhulka ka dhacay ma jirto alxamdulilaahi rabbil caalamiin alxamdulillah. Okay, so that's a good news. so hawaday ka qarxiyeen drone wuxuu eeg drones or missiles waxa lagu sameeyay interception marka hawadii qaraxi hawadii waxa dhulka waxba
3 targets in Isfahan. So that's also pretty big. So that further buttresses what Khaleesi was talking about before too.
So that's to indicate that the attack is limited in nature. If you've seen no explosions on the ground, the air defense have intercepted I'm assuming the drones, as you mentioned, Hadi, earlier, and we've seen attacks in Iraq and in Syria. In my opinion, I think the news that you just read, Khaleesi, is reassuring. In the grand scheme of things.
Inshallah khair. Anyway, waid ka tagaya maghribki baa ii soo dhaway. Khair baynu ilaahay baynu khayr weydiisanay. Ilaahay ha caawiyo muslimiinta. Iiraanta waa kuwa kaliya dhaqdhaqaaqay diiday in lagu dul socdo la humiliate gareeye. Ilaahay waxaynu ka baryaynaa in Ilaahay subhanahu wa ta'ala uu hiiliyo qaylada iyo wixii la maqlayna waxay leeyihiin waxay hayeen nacam commotionka air defense kii wadanka oo dhan baa la daaray so had iyo jeer marka laga wixii dhacday waxay u egtahay in so many problems iyo qarxiyo iyo boqol mushakil uu jiro marka kullayba saacadaha soo socda la ogaan doonaa insha Allah khayr baan idin rajaynayaa ilaahay idinkii u duceeya Iran waa muslimiinta kaliya dhiigiyo islaha khayr iyo baraadaan idin rajaynayaa nabadee
So it said the sound of the 3 explosions